Hello and welcome to Pattern Making with Let Morris. I hope everyone's doing well. Today's lesson will be this top that I'm going to be doing. That's a drawing, a picture of it. And it's just a loose top and it's got design features on the front of the top. It's got a stand collar, it's got a sleeve which is gauged into a 2-inch cuff, and the back is got a seam up the back with an opening there, and 2 little buttons at the back neck of the collar. So that's a little sleeve. That's the top. So I hope you will be able to follow me through this. I'll try and do it maybe in 2 parts because I'd like to show you step by step how this is done from the block. So we can create that, and it's also got 3 pleats going from the shoulder all the way down. They're left loose at the bottom, but they're held at the shoulder with the seam. So let's get at it. So here we go, we begin. And once again, thank you for watching, and let's just get whatever paper we're using, whether it be a spot or a cross, spot and cross, plain paper, brown paper, whatever paper you have your tools ready, and here we go. So these are what we need to start off with our blocks: the front, the back, and the sleeve. These are the 3 pieces of block patterns that we need to do the pattern for that top. So it's very important that we start off with our block. So here we go. We're going to put the sleeves away because we're not going to do that first. And we're going to start off with the bodies. So on a clean sheet of paper, I've already marked it out. We mark around the block. We put in all our information, balance, darts, all in. We do the same on the back, mark around it on a sheet of paper, and put in all our information on the that we've got on our block through to the one that we've traced off. So here we go. So I've got it already done. That's the front, and I've also got the back, which is there. It's got all the information on it, and I'm ready to go. As I always say, you never mark up your block, because your block is where you get all, where you initially starts off with. So don't throw your block away, keep them safe. You trace off on another sheet of paper and then you start. So I'm going to start off with the front, and as I've done it on the fold here like that. So I'm now opening it out so that you can see, and I've got a new sheet of paper, and I'm going to before I go to the sheet of paper, I'm going to mark on the design line that I want for the design feature that I've got here. This is loose. This section here is loose. It's attached in the neck, the shoulders, and it's left loose, and it's got 3 pleats on the shoulder. So I'm going to trace off or mark off that design feature, and it goes from the end of the shoulder point here. I want it to go there. I don't want it to go over, but you can go over if you want, but today's lesson is going to stop there. So from that point, I'm going to curve a line all the way back over to the next point here. So this is the section that I want for my design feature. So I've marked it on there, and now I can begin to make my pattern. So on a new sheet of paper, I'm going to fold the paper so that I've got, when I open it out, it's one piece. So I'm going to fold it. That's my fold edge, and that is my fold edge, and I'll place that to the fold edge of my paper that I've marked, and I'm folded rather. I'm going to mark around the neckline. So copy that all off again, put in my balance mark in, and I'm going to put my darts, underarm darts in there. And I'm going to mark all the way round to the bottom of my, this is what I'm calling my draft. I'm not going to use that dart because I want the blouse or my top to be loose, so I don't put the dart in. So I don't mark the dart in. So all I want is the underarm dart, and I make sure that I've got it transferred onto my new paper. So put that away, and I'm going to mark in my balance mark and mark my dart marks, connect up my darts. And I'm going to, while I'm doing that, I'm going to shorten my dart by 1 inch. So measure back 1 inch, and I reconnect the shape into there like that. You might say, why are you doing that? Because I don't want my dart to finish right on my nipple. So I go back whenever I want my underarm dart there, I go back. So I rub that out. So this is now my new dart shape, and I've got that in. Once I've got that, the next thing I'm going to do, because I want it a bit loose, I'm going to, from the bottom here, I'm going to go out 1 inch. So I'm going to measure out 1 inch here, and I'm going to take my line, a straight line from under my armpit there, you can see that, to the 1 inch point like that, and I'm just going to draw a straight line from that point up to there like that. Right, so once I've done that, I'm going to go up 1/4 of an inch from the bottom up, quarter to there, and I put a mark. So you measure that 1/4 of an inch up, and you put a mark there, and then from that point with you connect the line back into your hemline like that, so it's slightly shaped. So you can do that with your curve. So you can get hold of your curve and you just shape that back so it comes back into your hemline. So it's doing that sort of shape. So once I've got that, what I'm going to do, I'm going to fold out on the darts, because I want a smooth line when I'm finished, my pattern is finished, and when it comes to stitch it to the back side, the side of the back. So I'm going to cut away some of this paper that we've got here so that we can fold out our darts. So I'm going to fold my dart out. I'm going to fold it on these lines here that I've got, and I'm going to take that line up to that line. So I'm going to fold it out like that, take it up to there, and make sure it's folded so it touches that line. And as you can see here, it's slightly extended out, so I want it to be the same distance from there to there, from there to there. So all I'm going to do is I'm just going to straighten up that line like that, back to there like that. So that's what I've got. So now the two length of the dart are the same when you join them up. So before I do anything, I like to add my seam allowance while it's folded out like that. So I'm going to put my centimetre seam allowance down the side here with the dart folded out like that, and I'm going to come along the armhole centimetre seam allowance like that. So you can curve it or you can do it freehand if you've got a good, and then across the top, which is a centimetre, the shoulders along there, and then I'm just going to do 1/4 of an inch along the neckline here like that. So all you do is just curve that in right round like that. You can use your curve or you can just curve it round, and you do the same thing around the armhole, get a nice curve following back up to the shoulder point there. And then I'm going to put also a centimetre on the bottom, so you just follow that shape around like that to there. And you, before I do anything else, I like to cut out while my dart is folded out like that. I cut out on that shape there. You can either trace that out along this line or you just cut out. I like to fold and just cut. And then when you open out, you can see your dart is going out in and all the way up. So you know that is a smooth line along there. So then you can rub out, take that out because you don't use that line anymore. And you can now cut out the rest of your shape. So I'll go along the shoulder here and round around the armhole like this. So it's basically, I like to take this step by step so that you can follow this, and you know, if you're trying this, you know exactly what you're doing, what we do. So I then cut out the neck area here like that. Cut out your neckline, along the seam line. And then what I do is I've got I've got my balance line in here, so we need a notch there, a notch there, and a notch there. And we also need a drill hole there, just 1/2 inch going backwards, so that when we put that in on our fabric, we know that we run off a 1/2 inch to finish the dart. So that's very important there. So then I just make sure that all of this come through on my other side. So I'll just put the dart in and the balance mark. I use the prodder to do that, and then I just transfer it, open out. So I've now got one piece of pattern for my front. I've got my balance mark on, I've got my drill hole there along there, and I've also put on my grain line. So that is the front section that is finished. That's the front, and that's the grain line there. And I just write on there front, and I'm going to cut one of those. So that is the front. So we can put that away, and the next thing we do the back. Once again we trace around the pattern that we have, and then I've got it, I've traced around it. We're not going to be using that dart, so I'm just going to now, to make the pattern, I'm just going to put a straight line on this paper. Always start off with a straight line. So straight line, draft, this is your draft, up to the straight line. I'm going to mark off my shoulders, armhole, balance mark, put all the balance mark in. That's where they go. The only thing I'm not going to do on this, I'm not going to put the dart in because I don't want it, as I've explained, on the front. We're going to want it loose. So once you've done that, you take that away, and then we begin to do exactly what we've done to the front. We're going to come out 1 inch along here, and we're going to take a straight line from the end of the arm here down to that line, and we're going to come up 1/4 inch there, and we're going to, with your curve again, from there, bottom of the, we're going to shape along there. So once we've done that, we've got no darts. This is a center back. We're just going to add a seam down the center back, and we just add the seam all the way around, centimeter down the back like that. And then we need a notch, the distance, what we need the opening to be. It could be 5 inches, 4 inches, 6 inches. So I'm going to put mine at 5 inches there. So we've got the notch, and all we do now is just add your 1/4 inch around your neckline like that, and your centimeter along the shoulders, and centimeter down around the armhole. So once again, you can curve it with your curve, or you just do it freehand. And then we come down the side 1 centimeter, and then we go around the bottom also 1 centimeter. We follow the shape round because now it's slightly shaped all along there. And then we can use this line as the grain line on here, and we're going to write on there back, and we're going to cut 2 of those for the back. So we can, with your rubber, erase that line because you don't need that curve now. We've got now a straight line, but we must check to see that the shoulders match. Like, for example, that's your front. Shoulders got to match up like that. Spot on. The side seam has to match. So you're going to lay that on. You illuminate your dart. So that's where the dart is. You bring the other one up and it's matching exactly to the bottom. So it's important before you cut out the back, you check to see that everything matches up. So just extend that line so it's a nice straight line. So we'll come back to that and show you when we've done cut them out. So the next thing we have to do, we're going to be doing we traced off, I've already done it. We're going to take off this section here that we've got for the yoke, for the yoke, but it's loose. We're not going to attach it into a seam. We're only attaching it to the shoulder because it's a design feature. So I've already cut that shape out. This is it. And I have already marked on the lines where I want the pleats. So I've got 3 pleats there. So I'm going to just make the pattern for that piece, loose piece that we've got on from the neckline. So what we do is we're going to mark from that point all the way around to where we want the first pleat to be. So I've taken the first pleat 3/4 of an inch. I've measured from the point of the neck out and I've marked a straight line down parallel to the center front. And then I want my spacing between each pleat to be 3/4 of an inch. So I also measure out and draw the straight line down on the different section. So I've got 1 pleat, 2 pleat, 3 pleats. So now what I have to do, what we're going to do now is to copy off on this new sheet of paper here that we've got. We're going to copy off this section here. And we go from this point here, point of the end of the shoulder, round the neckline, and round the neckline on this side up to where we want the first pleat to be. And we're going to mark from this end, this point, all the way along. We're going to go around to where we want the first pleat, where we've drawn it. So we put a mark, and don't forget, while we're at it, we put a grain line in. Okay, so now that we've got our grain line in, we can now remove that piece for a while, put the grain line on like that, and that's the grain line there. And then we draw in the first line where we want the pleat to start. And the depth of my pleat, I want it to be 3/4 of an inch. So I've got to do double that, which is another 3/4. So that's 1.5 inches. So I'm going to make my pleat 1.5 inches. So I'm going to take it over to there and my 1.5, and I've measured it, and I'm going to draw a straight line along there. So all the way down there, straight line. And then I want to measure the space, which is 3/4 of an inch. So I'm going to measure out 3/4 of an inch along here. So I want the space to be 3/4 of an inch. So I measure 3/4 of an inch, and then I'm going to draw a straight line down there as well. So that is the space that I want in between the pleats, and then I measure out the 1.5 inches again. And that is my other pleat. So now I've created 2 pleats once I've drawn that line on. So that's 1 pleat, 2 pleat, and then we do the other space. Three-quarters of an inch spacing. So that's my 3/4 of an inch, and then we draw a straight line down there as well for the 3/4 of an inch spacing, and then we do the last pleat. So the other pleat will be 1.5 inches, and then we draw another straight line down. So that is our pleat there. Just make sure that your lines are straight. So that is the other pleat there. So once I've got my pleat, I'm going to cut some of this paper away so that I can fold the pleat out, and then you can see what we've done here. So I'm going to fold on this first line to get my pleat, because my pleats, I want the pleats to go inwards that way. So I'm going to go from that line there, and I'm going to fold it over onto that line. So it's from, that's my pleat in there. So I'm going to fold it on that line and fold it over here like that. And I'm going to stick it with your sellotape or prick stick so that we can see it. It's folded down. So I'll just put a little bit at the top here so that it's folded down. And then we're going to do the next one, which is from that, you fold it on that one, they're going towards the front. So pleats are going towards center front. You can do them towards this away from the center front, going the other way as well, but for this one I'm going to do them going towards the front. So you crease on there so you get a good fold. If you're working on a soft paper, you'll find it a bit easier to fold your pleat. So these are the pleats that's in position now. We can cut off some more of that paper there, so it makes it easy to work on. So there's your pleats all folded in there. So once you've got them folded in and they're secured down like that, we're going to go back to our draft piece that we've got. We're going to lay that on it. Make sure it goes to the center front, your grain, and it's touching. So it looks like that on your pattern piece. So once you've got that and it's back on there, we then going to mark. I'm going to mark it with a black marker so you can see what we've got. So we're going to mark along here the shoulder, original shoulder line across the pleats, and we're going to come across the bottom as well up towards the end of the sleeve like that. So we've got that shape. So once we've got that shape, we then going to add our seam allowance. We're going to add it at the top, which is 1 centimeter along there. So we add 1 centimeter along there, and we're going to add your 1/4 inch around the neckline. I'll just do that round there so that you can see that with a thicker pencil. And we're going to add seam allowance on the shoulder on this side. We don't add anything at the bottom yet because I'll show you why we don't do that. We're not going to be holding the pleat at the bottom at that section. We only want them to be held at this section at the shoulder. So once we've got that, all we do now, we can trace on that line or we can cut out on that line. I prefer to cut out on the line and then open out. So while it's folded, I'm going to cut on my seam allowance here like this, because once you do that, your pleat does something different when you open it out. So you'll see exactly what's happening. So we cut around the arm, the neckline. And so we cut out the shape with the seam allowance on, and we cut along the other shoulder. But you've got to remember, we do not add the seam allowance on the bottom just yet. So there we go. So once we've got that, we know that our pleats are folded in at the top. We then going to open this out and you'll see what's happening. At the top, you can see where it goes in out, in, out, in, out. That's because we folded the pleat. At the bottom, we can see we've got like steps going there, like that. So it's not a smooth curve. So all we have to do, because we're not going to have them flat like we have them on the shoulder, all we do is we just connect with our curve. We just do a nice line coming back into that point here. So just get a nice curve. With your curve, you can do that as well. You curve that over so that you get a good curved line. So with your curve, you just follow that through so that you get a nice curve, and it goes and touch back to your center front. So you're getting a good line. So you know that your curve is nice from that point there. So this is what we do. So we get a nice curve. So I'll just curve that with the marker so that you can see that. So what it's doing, we're getting a nice curve around that section there, like that. So it's continually having a nice curve all the time. So from there, it's curved all the way around. So now that we've curved that, we can then add our seam allowance, which is we only need 1/4, because we're just going to edge stitch the edge, or we can super lock it. It just depends on what you like. If you've got super locking machine, if you haven't, you just overlock it and just edge stitch it. So that is your seam allowance around there. And all we do now is cut that shape out like that, with the pleats open at the bottom on the wider edge rather, like that. And we cut round there, giving it a nice round shape like that with the seam allowance on, so that it looks like that when you've cut it out. It's like that. And then what we do here is we write on here, cut 1, and we must write right side up, meaning that when you lay that on your fabric, it has to be the right side up like that. So this is what happens when this is your body, and this is you call it like maybe a little bib, or a, but it's like a detail, and that's stitched onto your neckline, on your shoulders, like that, across your shoulders to the end of your sleeve, where your sleeve meets your armhole there. It just touches that, and it goes round like that. That's left loose, and you lay that in, you stitch it round there, you join your back shoulder to there, and those are your pleats that you've got in there. That's your pleats, and there is left loose at the bottom. So that is your pattern piece for your top. So those are the pieces. So we'll come back to those, and we'll just now do your collar. So the collar is a stand collar, and once again, what we do is we've got to get your neck measure, the back neck and the front neck, and you've got it, you know what it is. We fold a piece of, before we fold the paper, we just draw a straight line. Let's draw the straight line first, and we do the fold after. You draw a straight line here like that, and then we decide on one side for the back and the front. So if we call this the front, yeah, and then we measure from that point there, the center front, where our shoulder point is. So normally it's 5 inches, so we're going to measure 5 inches. So it's to here, and the back will be 3 inches to there. So we're going to say that is the center back, and we just square the line up. Square a line up like that, and we decide on how deep we want the collar to be. We got to decide how deep we want the collar to be, and I'm going to make this 1.5 inches. So you measure up from that point there, 1.5 inches up, and that is your collar depth, 1.5 inches up, and that's your collar depth. And then you just, all we do now is just connect the lines. And once you connect the lines, you just cut out that piece. But we don't want a straight line because we want our collar to curve in as it touches the neck area. So along there we cut, and along here we cut, and up here we cut like that. And we know that that is the center front. We call that the front. This is the shoulder seam, and this is the center back of our thing neckline. So now we can fold our paper, and then what we do is we're going to put 2 lines on there, halfway between the shoulder and the front, and halfway between the shoulder and the back. And we put a line. We're going to just slash upon those lines. We're going to slash them from the top area, not where it goes onto the collar, onto the garment. So I'm just going to put some slash line in there like that, and I'm going to slash it along here, and then I'm going to now lay that on my folded paper, folded that like that. I place the front, got to make sure you place the right side to the fold, the center front to the fold, and then we just close out at the top edge 1/4 of an inch on both lines that we have snipped. So as you can see, the line's shaped. It's now shaped at the bottom where it goes onto the neck, and it's also shaped at the top where it goes nearer to the neckline. So once we've done that, all we do is we're going to copy that round. So we mark it off, the shape, the new shape that we've got, and this is the center back here. So we mark up the back, and then we mark along the bottom area of it. You can see that the lines are broken, but all we have to do is just get a nice smooth line when we've finished. So with our curve, or you just curve it, get a nice shape round there, making sure you've got the same depth, 1.5 inches for the depth of your collar. So once we've got that, we can straighten up the center back line, and we just add 1/4 of an inch at the back along there, and we're going to add 1/4 on the inside neck edge and the outer neck edge that attached. This is the neck edge that attached to the garment, and you mustn't forget to put your notch in along there. So that is the notch. So now that you can see the shape is not straight anymore. The reason why that is because we've pinched out some little darts, about 1/4 of an inch on each line that we slash. If you want it really tighter, you can pinch out a bit more.